Part 28. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 271. Huineng came on foot from a distance with 7 young monks, and the crowd immediately dispersed. Huineng also held leadership positions in the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference and the Buddhist Association, and his status was higher than most of the so-called leaders on the stage. After shaking hands one by one, he took a group photo with Wang Jianxi, Su Ming, and director Song. The reporter had the best information. 2 interview vehicles had already arrived outside the zoo gate, and several reporters rushed towards the zoo gate at a sprint speed of 100 meters. Huh? I didn't see that kid of yours among the crowd. Zhao Yun tilted his head and smiled at Su Ming. All this was arranged by Su Ming in advance. Of course, the restructuring of those units that can really make money can be carried out in a low-key manner. Anyway, the economy will not be a problem in the future. If it is too high profile, it will attract rumors. But for an unprofitable unit like a zoo, there is no need to keep a low profile to avoid suspicion. If it is deserted, it will inevitably make people feel sad and desolate. On the contrary, making the restructuring prosperous and lively can allow everyone to see hope for the future internally, boost morale and unite people. Externally, you can use this opportunity to further expand the zoo's reputation. It's a good start. Zhao Yun had naturally been on the inside for a long time. When he saw that Nangang Yan was not among the reporters, he half-jokingly asked Su Ming if he was preparing to hide his beauty in a golden house to prevent Nangang Yan from being exposed. In the past, Nangang Yan was always the first to be notified of news related to Su Ming. Now Nangang is almost becoming Su Ming's royal reporter. Su Ming really has no such plan at the moment. The reason why he doesn't notify Nangang Yan is that it's not big news and it doesn't matter who reports it. Secondly, he is quite considerate sometimes. The space at the entrance of the zoo is overcrowded now. The reporters forced their way through the crowd. Su Ming didn't want Nangang Yan to suffer this. If you want to have good news, there will be more of it in the future, so why bother coming here to be crowded and suffer? Excuse me, Master Huineng. Finally, a reporter squeezed over. He didn't bother to straighten his suit with a few holes squeezed out. He tiptoed and handed the microphone to the stage and asked in a loud voice, "You are also here to congratulate me today. Is the zoo restructured? Ba, please give in a little and let these journalist friends come over." Lao Huineng first smiled and clasped his hands to the audience, and asked the tourists surrounding him to give way like a master. After all the reporters came to the stage, he answered with a smile to the reporter who rushed up first. Question: Our Daiwan Temple and the zoo are separated by half a mountain, so they can be regarded as close neighbors. The zoo was restructured, and the old monk came to join in the fun and say hello to the old neighbor. "Hello, Master Huineng." A young reporter from Yangchuan Evening News rushed to ask, since the fox home was opened in the back hill of the zoo, the wishing tree that has been neglected for a long time has become popular. Every weekend, there are many people going to the wishing tree to make wishes. What do you think of this? After raising this question, several other reporters immediately stopped rushing to ask questions and handed the microphone to Huineng. Obviously, they are also very interested in this issue. The ultimate purpose of reporters' interviews and reports is, on the one hand, to convey information and reveal the truth, but more importantly, it is to attract eyeballs and gain attention, create sales, ratings, and readings, and bring economic benefits. Therefore, sometimes reporters are just a character who is afraid of chaos in the world, and they ask very tricky and weird questions. For example, the question just now is actually a pitfall. If Huineng's answer denies the wishing tree, it would be like slapping the zoo in the face and demolishing the zoo. What he just said about congratulations to the old neighbor is too hypocritical, but on the contrary, if Huineng affirms the wishing tree function, this is even more inappropriate. With Lao Huineng's identity, how can he say that an old tree has supernatural powers? That has really become a feudal superstition. Therefore, whether Huineng answers directly or sideways, it is equivalent to jumping into a trap. These reporters can exaggerate it after they return. If it weren't for being in a public place, Su Ming would have wanted to kick this reporter. It was obvious that he was here to cause trouble. Moreover, the level of the question asked was too low. But this is not the first time Huineng has encountered such a scene. As a famous monk who has integrated into the secular world, Lao Huineng has encountered too many tricky and weird problems. Some reporters even prepared to make things difficult for him as soon as they saw him coming. Over time, Lao Huineng has also honed a good method. Huineng first nodded slightly to Su Ming, and then told the reporter with a smile, whether it is chanting sutras, chanting Buddha's name, or burning incense and making wishes, the ultimate goal is to express feelings, yearn for a happy and beautiful life, and build a harmonious society together. Good, good. Lao Huineng folded his hands slightly before continuing to say with a smile, from this point of view, as long as you have kind thoughts, there is no difference between Buddhist disciples and believers, the people outside Buddhism, and even all living beings. Su Ming couldn't help but want to laugh while listening. The old monk replied to the reporter and asked, I deeply understand the essence of the spokespersons of various units. They are absolutely politically correct in the general direction and cannot find any faults. What is said in the content is equivalent to not being said, and it is ambiguous. This leaves a huge imagination space. Human imagination is infinite. As long as Huineng and the zoo do not tell the truth for a day, the people can have endless speculations. Look, isn't that old Dong? Look at you, old Dong, you are smiling like a flower. Oh, that's Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao, you look too fat on TV, different from the real person. Vice President Su is so stylish, just like a big star, so full of momentum. Of course, the vice president is good friends with the big star in Hong Kong. Oh, that's a photo of our warehouse employees. When was it taken? Hurry up and record it and go home to show my wife. I'll be on TV, I'll become a celebrity. The zoo's restructuring ceremony was originally just an internal work, but under Su Ming's operation, it became a big news in Yangchuan City, and was even broadcast on Yangchuan City's 7 o'clock evening show. The status of this news program in the news industry of Yangchuan City is equivalent to the status of the news broadcast on CCTV. When it was broadcast, the zoo also specially organized employees who were not on duty to watch TV in the conference room together. Most people in the zoo showed a little face in the news. Ordinary people are still very excited to be on TV. During the whole process of watching the news, the conference room was full of laughter. The number of fans of Su Ming's Daowen Yu Weibo finally broke through the 50,000 mark in one fell swoop, approaching 60,000. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 272. The Weibo was full of messages, many of which were photos posted by lucky fans who participated in the zoo reform. Unexpectedly, the kind-looking old monk Huineng was very popular among young people. Many of them were photos taken with fans. In some photos with children, Huineng made a scissors gesture and smiled like a lucky cat. As Su Ming had guessed before, ordinary fans did not pay much attention to the zoo reform itself, but the appearance of the monk Huineng attracted a lot of attention. Huineng was a controversial figure in Yangchuan City and the whole country. His appearance actually increased the number of visits to the zoo. Not only did Wang Jianxi come to support Huineng and the zoo, but he also came to support the zoo this time. As a leader in charge of fisheries, agriculture, and forestry, it is understandable that Wang Jianxi came to attend the zoo reform, but in fact, there are so many related units in the city that even if Wang Jianxi had the ability to clone himself, he could not attend every celebration. If Huineng's attendance was to help the zoo attract the public's attention, Wang Jianxi's attendance was an official statement. The zoo has been restructured and is still a key focus unit of Yangchuan City. There is a reason why Wang Jianxi worked so hard this time. First, he was in a good mood recently. As the rumor went viral, Vice Mayor's son was about to retire, and it was basically decided that he would take over. Second, Wang Hao's matter was finally settled, which was a relief for him. Wang Hao has a share in the cruise ship business. After the dividend at the end of the year, he directly changed to an Audi A4. It is not expensive, just over 300,000 yuan. In Su Ming's opinion, either you don't change the car, or you have a significant improvement in grade. For example, if he wants to change his own Wrangler in the future, it will have to cost more than 1 million yuan, otherwise it will be meaningless. Wang Hao is just showing off. The original 200,000 yuan car was changed to 30 yuan. There is no essential change except that the brand is more scary. But it's okay. Wang Hao is now the leader of an independent company. He is in charge of the 3 projects of the zoo, namely the cruise ship, fish riding and fox ferry. With 1 million yuan income a year, driving an Audi is in line with his status. Wang Hao's change to Audi is probably related to Peng Shui. Driving a Kuga to pick up girls is completely different from driving an Audi, and his confidence is greatly increased. Everything looks good. The problem is that if there are people in the world who are happy, there must be people who are not very happy. Ren Chen is the not very happy person. After being bitten by Goza that night, he drove to the hospital despite the pain. On the way, he accidentally got into a car accident. The trident hit the electric pole on the side of the road and broke the bumper. You get what you pay for. Under such a violent collision, Ren Chen only had a few scratches. Years of driving sports cars and occasionally racing have made him develop a good habit of wearing seat belts, which is also an important reason why he was not injured. After the car crash, he didn't have to drive to the hospital. He called 120 and took the ambulance to the hospital for treatment. The wasp sting on his face healed in a few days. The trident cost more than 300,000 yuan to repair the car, but he didn't care much with his financial resources. But a series of accidents, first not waiting for Nangong, then being bitten by a wasp, and then crashing the car, made him feel very unlucky. If he were an ordinary person, he might think that these things were not a matter of luck, but a cause and effect relationship. In order to pursue Nangong Yan, he bought flowers with strange fragrance, opened the car window in the cold weather, which attracted bees. His face was swollen like a pig's head, and he forced himself to drive to the hospital, which led to the car crash. But rich people like Ren Chen are superstitious and believe in things like feng shui and fortune. Go to Fox home? Are you kidding? In a high-end private club in the suburbs of Yangchuan, Yang Meng, the former popular host of the TV station, put down the red wine in her hand, touched her thick eyeshadow, and looked at Ren Chen sitting opposite with incredible eyes. During the last hormone storm, Yang Meng had obvious personal feelings in the reporting process, which did not meet the requirements of journalists. Afterwards, according to the deputy director's intention, she had to take a leave for a period of time and temporarily leave the screen to wait for the storm to pass. As she worried before, the storm was over, and the hormone storm did not involve her in the end, but when she returned to the TV station again, her previous job had been replaced by a newcomer. She, the former popular host, can only do some behind-the-scenes work now, and occasionally guest appearance in a few small programs, barely maintaining the minimum appearance rate. It is very difficult to become popular again. At most, the audience can barely remember that she still exists. Yang Meng and Ren Chen have known each other for a long time. Ren Chen's family's company has advertising business in TV stations, and he is a man who will not let go of any pretty girls he sees. Yang Meng has advertising task targets, and she is not a serious woman. Not long after they met, they hit it off and had sex several times. However, Ren Chen has a weird personality. No matter how beautiful a woman is, once he gets her, he will soon lose interest. After they fooled around secretly for a while, they returned to the relationship of bad friends. Unexpectedly, they are more harmonious as friends than and they can play together very well. Ren Chen will take care of Yang Meng if he has advertising, and Yang Meng will sometimes introduce some wild models, young models, showgirls, etc. who want to make a name for themselves to Ren Chen. Yang Meng heard that Ren Chen had a small car accident, so of course she had to visit him. Ren Chen was not injured at all. After the swelling on his face subsided a little, he invited Yang Meng to the club for dinner. After hearing Ren Chen say that he was going to visit Fox home, Yang Meng looked at him in surprise. "What's the matter? I've watched the video. Fox home is quite interesting." Ren Chen smiled lightly, but he did not tell Yang Meng the truth. With his current status, how could he be interested in a group of little foxes? A bunch of gorgeous little vixens are pretty much the same. The reason why he wanted to visit the fox home was because he heard that Nangongyan liked animals and often appeared in the zoo. This is not a question of whether it's fun or not. Yang Meng deliberately put it off, narrowed his phoenix eyes, and said with an ambiguous expression, "Everyone else can go, but you can't." "Why?" Ren Chen was even more puzzled. "Aren't you chasing that little girl Nangongyan?" Yang Meng said. "Yes." What is her relationship with Fox? Ren Chen thought Yang Meng had guessed the truth, but his face remained calm. Maybe Yang Meng had more information. But Yang Meng refused to continue talking. He picked up the wine glass and took a sip of the wine. Then he lifted his long hair and turned to look out the window, looking like the time had passed peacefully. Ren Chen had plenty of experience in hanging out among flowers. As soon as he saw Yang Meng acting like a green//t bitch, he knew what Yang Meng meant. He stood up and sat next to Yang Meng, held her slender wrist, looked at the lady's watch on her wrist, and said with a smile, "It's really embarrassing to wear such a beautiful wrist with a broken watch worth thousands of dollars. Got it? I saw a good Vacheron Constantine last time. I'll take it to you after dinner and buy it if you like it." Yang Meng then turned his gaze back from the window, punched Ren Chen half-heartedly, and said angrily, "You are a dead man, you know how to like the new and dislike the old." "Haha, you're wrong. I like the new and I don't hate the old." Ren Chen went up and kissed Yang Meng on the face. "Tell me, what's going on?" Yang Meng said quietly, "Nangongyan has a boyfriend, do you know?" Diaozi and Tu Hao had completely different reactions to the sentence. Ren Chen was not surprised at all, but shrugged indifferently. "It's strange that such a beautiful woman doesn't have a boyfriend, but does she have anything to do with me? Just grab it? Well, is her boyfriend more handsome and richer than me? Definitely not as rich as you, but well, his boyfriend is the current deputy director of the zoo." Yang Meng sneered, "If you go to see the fox, doesn't it mean giving her boyfriend money to cheer her up?" After saying that, he seemed to be worried that the world would be in chaos, so he provoked, "When did you become so kind? When that little girl Nangongyan gets married in the future, are you going to give a red envelope to congratulate her?" Yang Meng and Nangongyan are both hostesses of the TV station. Even if they are not responsible for the same program, they still have an innate competitive relationship. Nangongyan is younger and more beautiful than her, and has become very popular recently, which makes Yang Meng feel strongly threatened. In the hormone incident, Yang Meng ended miserably, but Nangongyan took advantage of this to make a small appearance, which made Yang Meng itchy with hatred. In fact, there are so many young and beautiful people on the TV station, but Yang Meng is particularly displeased with Nangongyan. There is a reason for this. Yang Meng is the kind of woman who is willing to do anything to get the upper hand, while Nangongyan is just the opposite. With her principles and bottom line, the two of them are not the same person at all. It can be said that they look down on each other. The instigation in Yang Meng's words was too strong. Ren Chen was young but had a lot of social experience. How could he not hear it? He just smiled lightly and said, "Then what do you think I should do?" Do I still have to deal with her boyfriend? If Yang Meng had a choice, she would of course want to disgrace Nangong Yan. It would be best if she could not appear on TV for the rest of her life and quit the TV station completely, but Ren Chen obviously would not do that. As for dealing with Nangong Yan's boyfriend, for Yang Meng not even a dime of benefit. So, you don't need to use provoking methods on me, Ren Chen said confidently. This is not the first time I have chased a woman. As long as you swing the hoe well, there is no corner that you can't dig down. Seeing that Ren Chen was so confident that there was no woman he could handle, Yang Meng's curiosity was aroused and he asked, then what are you going to do? You are also a woman, don't you understand? Ren Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly, showing a somewhat evil smile, and said, going to deal with her boyfriend will only arouse her resentment. Even if I make him her boyfriend, if I was destroyed, she would not fall in love with me, but would hate me even more. Besides, I am just richer, I am not a national leader, and the zoo and my business have no overlap, so how can I say I will destroy anyone? Who can be defeated? The key question is to gain Nangong Yan's favor. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 273. Good impression is very important. Su Ming clasped his hands behind his back, like a veteran cotter, and walked forward on the path of the zoo. At the same time, he used the tone of an experienced person to give instructions. Falling in love is not a Korean drama, where two people despise each other at first, but in the end, after a series of fights, they discovered that the other person was the true love, and the happy enemies who got married can only appear in TV movies. Generally speaking, they have a good impression of each other at the beginning, and then slowly develop. At least not annoying at first. It sounds like you are very experienced. Nangong Yan was wearing a sports suit. She was obviously a young girl in her early 20s, but she looked like an ant doing square dancing, waving her hands vigorously back and forth while walking. Of course, that's how we two are. You see, you fell in love with me the first time you saw me, and I also had a crush on you. Then after a series of seemingly ordinary interactions, the relationship gradually deepened, and finally now that we've reached this point, it's a natural progression and we've started a formal relationship. Nangong Yan rolled her eyes at Su Ming. I think I'm as beautiful as a flower, and the people I want to pursue are 2 stops away. Why do I fall in love with such a shameless and scoundrel person like you? The relationship between Nangong Yan and Su Ming has undergone a fundamental change, and the layer of paper between them has suddenly been torn apart. Of course, only the window paper was torn, nothing else was torn. Time must move forward, back to the day when Su Ming seriously considered his relationship with Nangong Yan after sending Nangong Yan home. Su Ming thought about it. Why didn't he accept Nangong Yan's feelings before? It's not that Su Ming doesn't care about Nangong Yan. On the contrary, he knows very well that he values Nangong Yan very seriously. The reason why he avoided this topic from college to work is because of his own conditions. This was probably a habit he had developed. Even though he had some money after graduation, Su Ming still avoided this issue. It wasn't until the day when the zoo was officially reorganized, when he looked at the people who came to congratulate him, ranging from government leaders to large groups of fans, celebrities, and dozens of employees at the zoo, that Su Ming suddenly realized that he really was not. He was the poor boy who had nothing. Even if he loses his mental strength, with his current wealth and experience, he is completely worthy of Nangong Yan and provides her with a good living environment. So what can stop two people from being together? After seeing the trident at the Amber Villa that night, Su Ming seemed to have had an enlightenment. It wasn't because he was afraid that Nangong Yan would be chased away by others, but because he realized that Nangong Yan had been waiting for him quietly and had never even made a request to embarrass him. How long can a woman's youth last? Should she just keep waiting? So, this layer of window paper was just pierced. It has officially transcended the stage of ambiguity and entered the stage of falling in love. After being ambiguous for a long time and suddenly falling in love, a more troublesome problem arises. The two of them are too familiar and accustomed to each other, and they feel a bit like an old married couple. But neither of them had ever been in love. After they decided to officially date, Nangongyan thought about it for a long time and said, "Most couples go to the park to watch movies, why don't we go too?" So the two started visiting the zoo. The point is, after you said that, I suddenly felt that our relationship was not romantic at all, Nangong said depressedly while throwing away his hands. Isn't it romantic? Su Ming walked forward with his hands behind his back and said, "The most romantic thing in the songs is growing old together. Look, we have spanned decades, and we are now with my son. It's time to grow old together." They are not growing up together. The two of them are like two old men and women going out for a walk. One has his hands behind his back and the other is waving his hands. Nangong not only has to interview, but is also responsible for the planning of the program. He often does copywriting in front of the computer. Su Ming said that shaking your hands while walking will help the blood flow and you will not get varicose veins in the future. Nangongyan and Su Ming are here together, they didn't use their brains much most of the time. She believed whatever Su Ming said, so the two of them went to the park like this. Nangong squinted his eyes and hummed, "Growing old together? This sentence seems to be missing, right? Okay, let's complete the first half of the sentence." Su Ming smiled, stretched out his hand and grasped Nangongyan's palm that was moving back and forth. Nangongyan said she was powerful and meant it, but she felt a little weak. When Su Ming held her hand, she instinctively pulled her hand back slightly. She twitched for a moment, but didn't twitch. Su Ming's hands were like iron pliers, holding her little hand tightly. "Hey, do you know how to fall in love? Have you ever held a girl's hand? How could anyone be as strong as you? Obviously we didn't talk about it." When Su Ming's hand relaxed a little, Nangongyan discovered that his palm was a little wet, and asked curiously, "It's not hot, why are your palms sweaty? Why are you so weak at such a young age?" "My body is weak." Su Ming's mouth twitched, "Sister, I'm just nervous, okay?" "Isn't he really weak?" Nangong stared at Su Ming with a playful look, and intermittently let out strange laughter of unknown meaning. "It's true. You can't prove what you say. Walk half a mile ahead and you'll reach the waterside pavilion where I live. How about we go into the room and check it out?" Su Ming raised his eyebrows and approached him with a shy face. Nangongyan's face lit up, "What a beautiful idea. Keep walking. First make up for what you owe me by going to the park, watching movies, attending concerts, etc. I just know that whoever confesses his love first will die first." "Now he is completely passive," Su Ming said. "Ha ha ha, I've said it before, you can't escape my grasp." Nangongyan looked up to the sky and smiled. They walked hand in hand to the zoo, which was equivalent to making their relationship public. Many zoo employees walked towards them and saw this scene. They were stunned and then gave them blessing smiles. Of course, there are also those who smile bitterly. For example, Master Peng was a little depressed. He originally wanted to introduce his daughter Peng Shui to Su Ming. But after seeing the scene of Su Ming pulling Nangongyan, Master Peng could only give up. After returning to Mingqing residence in the evening, he dragged Liang Shi to drink a few ounces of wine, and finally thought about it. Forget it, children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. In fact, Wang Hao is not bad, but he is a little fatter. Sister Tong finally let go of her worries. Lesbians of her age have a tendency to never give up until they achieve their goals when introducing partners. Su Ming couldn't find a partner for a day, and Sister Tong always felt as if she had something unfinished. This was a typical case of compulsion. Disease. "I'm talking about you too." "Ah, let me say something nice about you too. In the medical room, Nurse Xiao, who finished calculating the fish feed sales for this week, stood up from the computer desk, pointed at Nurse Sister Liao and Sister Liao with her hands on her hips, and said loudly, "Since you two are interested in him, why didn't you tell me earlier?" "What? Why didn't you tell me earlier? How could he know?" The two of them were like primary school students. They stood there with their heads lowered while being scolded. Their faces were all red. They put their hands in front of them and intertwined their fingers tightly. Not to mention how entangled they were in their hearts. Seeing their pitiful looks, Xiao, who softened his heart, sighed, and said with a bit of hatred, "Hey, you two boring gourds. I'm sorry to say it, but you can always be more enthusiastic, you guys are better off. Every time you see him, you act like you've met a gangster. You want to tie your waistband tightly. What are you doing? A long distance away." She was very thin-skinned to begin with, but when she heard the last words, "I wish I could have someone pull your waistband," they were so embarrassed and anxious that they almost collapsed and burst into tears. They are really twin sisters. Sisters are connected to each other. Not only do they like the same people, they even cry at the same time. "Xiaohu, are you comforting them or stimulating them?" The veterinarian walked in from outside carrying a big bag. Xiaohu's voice was loud, and he heard it before he even entered the door. As soon as he entered, he saw the state of the medical center. The two young nurses were crying, and he immediately understood what was going on. "I can't get angry. Veterinary doctors, you talk about it near the water tower, so good opportunities, she is not sure, now crying, there is a fart," Xiaohu said. Her words were too lethal. Just now, she made the two nurses embarrassed and anxious. Now her words made Diao Liao depressed and regretful. "Hey, the injustice, it's all the injustice from the previous life." The veterinarian shook his head, sat behind the desk, looked at the nurse sister who kept crying, and said, "Actually, this is a good thing. You two, listen to what I have to say. After listening, you can cry again if you want to." The veterinarian was a well-educated person with good academic background and good skills. He was also the head of the medical center and was very prestigious in the medical center. The two young nurses held back their tears and looked up at him with red and swollen eyes. Xiaohu was also curious and wanted to hear what the veterinarian had to say to the sisters. "How could this be a good thing? It's very simple. Let's assume that he doesn't have a girlfriend, and let's assume that he also likes you. Then let me ask you, he can't marry you too, can he?" The veterinarian spread his hands and asked matter-of-factly. Nurses Diao and Liao were stunned for a moment, and looked at each other with their eyes that were red and swollen from crying. That's not the truth. In this way, their secret love for Deputy Principal Su was destined to be fruitless from the beginning. No matter whether Su Ming has a girlfriend or not, it's not their turn at all. That's right, that's the truth. You sisters are so close that no one is willing to hurt the other person, and the country doesn't allow two people to marry, so this matter is nonsense from the beginning. The veterinarian calmly waved it off. Even Xiaohu was a little confused, looking at the two young nurses with his mouth half open. Wow! The little nurse couldn't stop her tears from flowing out again. This was too frustrating. According to the veterinarian, they were just a pair of idiots who made mistakes from beginning to end. Hey, young people can't see it clearly. What is affection and what is love? It's just men and women acting. The veterinarian hummed a few lines of lyrics, took out 2 packs of Izadi's root from his bag and threw them on the table. "Stop crying, drink some Izadi's root to calm down the shock." Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 274. On this weekend morning, Su Ming and Nangang Yan had originally agreed to drive to a nearby farmhouse, but they both overslept. When they woke up, it was almost 9:30. They simply made a phone call and agreed to cancel the activity and continue to sleep. They woke up until almost noon, then they got up and met at the zoo. After strolling around, they came to the fox attraction in the back mountain. Sometimes Nangongyan thought of the last time she raised money, and joked with Suming, saying that this was a group of fox gods who helped us do good things, and you have to treat them well. In the past, the fox home was only a hillside, and there was no development around it. It was basically a pure wild environment. Now it can be called a scenic spot. According to Suming's overall plan, Sudasheng has led the construction team to build roads and began to install guardrails around the original hillside to build a scenic spot. The project has just started, and it is still unclear what it will look like in the future. However, the renderings were designed by Suming, who also invited Zhao Yun, an expert in folk antiques, to further transform the previous small villa in order to meet the concept of a future paradise. The architectural style is consistent with most of the buildings in the zoo, with an ancient flavor. After completion, the hillside will become a small village in the ancient style of the Tang and Han dynasties, with scattered houses, paths, and fences shaded by peach blossoms and green willows, and even small bridges and flowing water. That is a real small bridge. All the buildings are reduced in a certain proportion to build a miniature retro village. The foxes are the villagers here. Since Nangongyan calls them fox immortals, Suming named the village Gaiyozianju. The current Gaiyozianju does not even have a prototype. It is just a busy, dusty, and noisy construction site. It is so noisy that many little foxes simply do not open for business. Some follow the wolfdog Huiya to play in the mountains, and some simply close the door, close their two big ears, and lie down at home to sleep. Even so, it still couldn't resist the enthusiasm of tourists. The old wishing tree also regained its vitality. Laolin ordered a lot of red wishing charms and gave them to the foxes to sell. The zoo had cats selling tickets before, and now there were foxes selling wishing charms, and tourists quickly accepted them. There were long queues in front of the few fox houses that were still open on the hillside. Several foxes dressed as profiteers with fake mustaches handed out wishing charms to tourists, and tourists threw a few dollars into the box at the door of the fox's house. Suming and Nangongyan waited in line honestly and waited for their turn. "Don't look," Nangongyan pulled a red cloth blessing belt, then turned around and wrote a few words on it with a waterproof pen. Suming was curious and wanted to look at what she wished for, but was blocked by Nangongyan's body. After Nangongyan finished writing, she rubbed Little Ear's head with a smile. Little Ear shook his head and cried "ah" twice, and put his little paws into a big basket beside the house. The big basket was full of walnut-sized bells. Little Ear fumbled in the basket for a while, and his pointed little paws popped out of his webbed feet, picked out a small bell, and then squinted his eyes and blew on the bell, and handed the bell to Nangongyan. "Hee, these little guys are getting more and more human." Nangongyan tied the bell to the red cloth strip with a smile, and then dragged Suming to a tree more than 10 meters high not far away. On the big tree, there were many long and short wishing banners, and bells were hanging on the cloth strips. When the wind blew, the wishing banners swayed with the wind, and the whole tree made a crisp and pleasant sound of dingling dingling. Where to throw it? Suming took the wishing strip from Nangong and looked up at the tree. The tree had many branches, and the lower branches were already full of wishing strips. That one, Nangongyan stood on tiptoe and pointed at the highest branch and shouted excitedly. "Okay, look at me." Suming smiled and held the red cloth strip in his hand like he was using a meteor hammer. He raised his arm and swung the end with the bell up and rounded it. It whirred around for more than a dozen circles, and Suming shouted "Go!" The wishing strip flew out of his hand, dragging a long red tail into the air, drawing an arc, and landed steadily on the highest branch. The bell was still strong and circled around the branch several times, firmly putting the wishing strip on the tree. A gust of wind blew by, and Nangong's wish banner, along with hundreds of other wish banners, fluttered in the wind, and with the ringing of the bell, conveyed good wishes to the distant sky. Successfully throwing the wish banner onto the designated branch was a very good omen. Su Ming succeeded in one shot, and Nangong Yan was extremely happy. She jumped up and made a scissors hand gesture, said yeah, and then clapped her hands with Su Ming to celebrate. Come on, take a picture, and then post it on WeChat Moments to show your love. Su Ming took out his mobile phone and smiled at Nangong Yan. Nangong Yan stood under the big tree full of wish banners, posed, and looked at the camera with a smile. Just as Su Ming was about to press the camera button, he saw from the screen of his mobile phone that Nangong's eyes suddenly fell to the back, as if he saw something that made her unhappy. The smile on her face quickly disappeared, and she frowned slightly. What's going on? Su Ming put down his mobile phone and looked back. Behind him was a hillside, filled with tourists and construction workers, and there was nothing wrong at all. But soon, Su Ming realized where the problem lay. Everyone has an aura. For example, if you are a leader and hold a high position all year round, you will be surrounded by people. Even in private situations, you will unconsciously show your aloof temperament. Another example is the really rich people, even if they dress low-key. Standing among ordinary people will have a unique temperament. If this rich man is still a standard handsome guy, he will simply stand out from the crowd and be a bright light in the darkness. Among the tourists in the back, there was such a young, rich, and handsome guy. The guy also saw Nangong Yan, far away, with a moving smile on his face, waved to Nangong Yan, and then strode towards here. Isn't this person Ren Chen? Su Ming put away his phone and tilted his head to ask Nangong Yan. Nangong Yan said a little bored, who else could it be? Why is this person like a fly? He follows me wherever I go. Your metaphor is inappropriate. Su Ming smiled and said, I think it is more appropriate to say that he is a hard-working little bee. Wherever there are flowers, there is him. Nangong couldn't help but chuckle. The metaphor she just made was indeed inappropriate. Flies circle around cowshed. If Ren Chen were a fly, what would she become? He smiled, and the unhappiness in his heart disappeared. The woman's mind jumped quickly, and she immediately pouted and asked Su Ming, you didn't seem nervous at all when you saw your love rival coming. This is a dilemma. If you are too nervous, you will inevitably feel stingy, suspicious, and sensitive. If you are not nervous, you will feel that you don't care about her. Su Ming glanced at Nangong Yan, then smiled faintly and said, it's normal for someone to chase a beautiful girl like you. I'm not nervous because I trust you. If we don't even have the most basic trust between each other, what's the point of falling in love? Yes. I understand, Nangong Yan nodded seriously. Trust means respect and understanding. The weight of these two words is sometimes much heavier than sweet words. When Ren Chen came from a distance, he didn't see Nangong Yan at first. It wasn't until Nangong and Su Ming went to throw the wishing banners under the tree that he noticed that Nangong Yan was here, and then he saw Su Ming and Nangong. Yan was talking and laughing, a hint of displeasure clearly flashed across his expression, and his pair of narrow eyes narrowed slightly. But then, as Nangong Yan also saw him, Su Ming also turned around and looked over. All the displeasure on his face immediately disappeared, replaced by a friendly smile. Nangong, what a coincidence, I meet you here. Ren Chen nodded slightly to Nangong Yan, then turned to look at Su Ming, looked at him for a few times, and extended his hand generously. You must be Nangong's boyfriend, I've heard about him for a long time, you are indeed a talented person. Hello, let me meet you, my name is Ren Chen. After Ren Chen learned from Yang Meng that day that the Great Fox Fairy was the property of Nangong Yan's boyfriend, not only did he not deliberately avoid it, but he visited the Great Fox Fairy attraction several times with great interest. Today he came over again and happened to meet Nangong Yan. Making a wish with Su Ming. There is actually no technical content in poaching. The key lies in the word tangle. This word tao is a bit particular, and you must grasp the proportion and heat. On the one hand, you must often appear in front of the woman, show meticulous care, and have enough appearance to let the woman know that there is such a person who cares about her. On the other hand, this kind of care must not be enough to make the other party bored. Too much is not enough. Once the other person is bored, it will be difficult to continue with subsequent actions. It is best to appear as a good friend, which can not only get closer to the other party, but also provide the other party with an excuse to put down their guard. We are just friends. Fierce girls are afraid of pestering their husbands. If a couple has been dating for a long time, there will always be conflicts and frictions. As long as the poacher has enough patience and calmness and keeps pestering the woman, sooner or later he will find an opportunity to strike. This is a bit like wild beast hunting. A lion has its sights on a buffalo, but the buffalo is moving with the large army and attacks rashly. The lion will most likely be besieged by the buffalo herd, so it keeps following the buffalo herd at a short distance. Later, don't let the target escape your sight. Once you find an opportunity, such as the target falling behind, take decisive action to capture it. As Ren Chen himself said, as long as the hoe is wielded well, there is no corner that cannot be dug down. This is not the first time that he has done this kind of thing. Don't talk about Nangong Yan, a little girl who is just in love. Even if she has been married, Ren Chen has also dug out a lot of young married women and is very experienced. Moreover, Ren Chen has almost all the words Pan Donkey and Deng Xiaoxian. There are countless bees and butterflies around him. The most important thing he lacks is patience. For him, the process of hunting is fun in itself. So after hearing that Nangong Yan had a boyfriend, Ren Chen was not anxious or angry, but became even more interested. Seeing Ren Chen extending his hand generously, Su Ming was also slightly startled. It seemed that he had met his opponent. This was not at all the trick of the brainless rich second generation in the novel to fight with his face. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 275. Don't hit a smiling person. Ren Chen's polite attitude at this time made Su Ming slightly stunned. It's completely inconsistent with the routine. The normal plot should be that Ren Chen talks big, uses money to pressure people, and takes the initiative to run over to humiliate himself, showing an ugly face of a nouveau riche that is hated by all gods and ghosts, and then he successfully occupies the moral high ground, smiles faintly, and uses the mental power golden finger to teach this guy a lesson. Is it the wrong way to open it? Or is this guy in front of him actually a good guy? Obviously, Ren Chen is not a good guy. Although his tone of speech is very polite, and the content of what he said did not attack Su Ming. But Su Ming still felt a very restrained arrogance from his attitude. It felt like a government leader meeting with petitioners. What he said was impeccable, and his attitude was also very sincere and kind, polite and thoughtful, but from the bottom of his heart, he didn't take the other party seriously. After Ren Chen extended his hand, he looked at Su Ming with a smile. He hoped that Su Ming would not treat him well, and it would be best if he would say something sarcastic, or even punch him in the face. At that time, it would be clear which of the two men was superior and which was more cultured and tolerant. In fact, Su Ming thought so too. The two looked at each other for a few seconds, and laughed at the same time. Su Ming extended his hand, shook it slightly with Ren Chen, and said with a smile, "In fact, we have known each other for a long time. One night I sent her home and saw you sitting in the car downstairs." When Ren Chen mentioned what happened that night, he felt a little prickly on the left side of his face. He laughed and didn't want to talk about that night anymore. He said to Nangong Yan, "It's a coincidence to meet here. It's better to meet by chance than to invite each other. I'll treat you to lunch together." Although he said invite you, Ren Chen didn't even look at Su Ming when he spoke. He kept smiling at Nangong Yan, obviously not going to ask Su Ming's opinion. It was lunchtime, and the three of them were getting along well. It was reasonable to say that such an invitation was not easy to refuse. Even if they did, they would find a reason to decline. Unexpectedly, Nangongyan shook her head and said directly, "I don't think it's necessary." Ren Chen was stunned, and was about to say something, but Nangongyan stepped forward, hugged Su Ming's arm, and said to Ren Chen expressionlessly, "My boyfriend and I are very good together, and we don't want to be disturbed by irrelevant people." Seeing Nangong hug Su Ming naturally, Ren Chen's eyelids finally couldn't help but jump. No matter how well-mannered and patient he was, he had never been rejected so directly. Men should save face when talking to each other, taking into account their status and propriety. Sometimes, even if they want to kill each other in their hearts, they have to smile on their faces. But women are different. Nangongyan's tone and demeanor did not give Ren Chen any face at all. Don't hit a smiling person. This set of rules doesn't seem to work with Nangongyan. Being hugged by Nangongyan, Su Ming felt sweet in his heart, and turned his head to smile at Nangongyan. This girl is great, she really makes her buddy proud. Ahem. Ren Chen was embarrassed by Nangongyan's choking, coughed twice, and said, "Nangong, what you said is wrong. No matter what, we are all friends. You have a boyfriend, let's have a meal together, just celebrate." This time Nangong's reaction was even more extreme. Before Ren Chen finished speaking, she interrupted him coldly and said word by word, "Mr. Ren, you seem to have made a mistake. First, we can't be called friends. You have business dealings with the TV station. We have met a few times, and at best we just know each other. Even if there are any direct business dealings in the future, it is just a business relationship. Apart from that, there is no personal relationship. Second, I am not interested in having any personal relationship with you, so there is no need to have a meal together." After that, she turned her head and said to Su Ming, "Husband, let's go." Too domineering. Too queen-like. It seems that I have not been a little submissive for so long in vain. Su Ming laughed, shrugged at Ren Chen, and then left with Nangongyan. Nangongyan just took a step forward, suddenly turned back, and said to Ren Chen in a calm tone, "Mr. Ren, and if there is no official business in the future, please don't bother me again, let alone send flowers or anything, which will affect my work." After saying the last sentence, Nangong took Su Ming's arm, and the two walked down the hillside talking and laughing. Ren Chen stayed where he was, his face turned blue and red, and his handsome face had a look that changed several times in an instant, and finally became a little ferocious. There are many tourists around the wishing tree who come to hang the wishing banners. It can be said that there are people everywhere around. Nangongyan's voice just now was quite loud, and the tourists around heard it clearly. Those who watch the excitement don't mind the big deal. Seeing the exciting scenes of love triangles and scolding handsome guys, many tourists' attention was attracted at once. They took out their mobile phones and smiled and took pictures here. "What are you taking photos of?" "Get lost." Ren Chen finally couldn't hold it in any longer, the veins on his forehead were all popping out, he yelled at the people around him viciously, and then strode down the mountain from another direction. It's true that a strong woman is afraid of a clinging man, but the premise is that she can cling to him. Nangongyan's statement just now was merciless and completely cut off the possibility of continuing to date in the future. In fact, if you continue to cling to him shamelessly, it may not be 100% impossible. Things are unpredictable, and no one knows what will happen in the future. But doing so is too difficult. It's no longer a matter of being in love with a cold butt, but a matter of swallowing the spit in your face and letting people point at your nose and scold you while smiling. As a result, Ren Chen's previous stalking plan was completely in vain, and there was no possibility of continuing to implement it. Ren Chen does have rich experience in chasing women and is very patient, but he has never encountered such a situation. Given his personal conditions, looks and worth, even if he was rejected, he would still decline politely. How could anyone be like Nangong Yan, who would show no mercy at all? This is simply the treatment that one would encounter in the legend of being hanged in the wild. Ren Chen never dreamed that this kind of thing would happen to him. At the beginning, everything was still under control. Why did the situation suddenly take a drastic turn? Is it the wrong way to open it? You were so classy just now. Come on, give me a kiss. Su Ming laughed loudly, hugging Nangong Yan and kissing her face. Nangong's angry look just now was full of aura and queen-like, which was completely different from her usual style. But to be honest, Su Ming didn't expect Nangong Yan to say such decisive words to Ren Chen at first. There are many ways to reject people. A beautiful girl of Nangong's age has been pursued by countless people since she was a child, so she has long learned a lot of ways to reject people without losing face. But Nangong did not hesitate to choose the one that looked the worst and the lowest. Those words just spoken were tantamount to completely offending Ren Chen, not only leaving no chance for Ren Chen, but also not leaving the slightest way out for herself. Hey, it's disgusting. It's all drool. Nangong Yan shrank like a little rabbit, raised her hand to wipe the drool on her face, then looked at Su Ming and said seriously, "You trust me, I won't live up to this trust. Anyway, I don't want to talk to him at all. I'll just let him give up so that he won't have any more illusions. There is no need to find a spare tire to play with, which is not good for everyone. It seems that I can't treat you like a little girl all the time." Hearing the sincerity of Nangong Yan's words, Su Ming stopped joking. He stroked her long hair and said, "This time I have completely offended him. You can't do it again in the future TV station. If you encounter any difficulties, tell me and I will handle it." Sometimes Su Ming's heart was thicker than a hemp rope, but sometimes, it was as thin as a hair. Last time at Amber Villa, she saw Ren Chen's car for the first time. Although Nangong Yan didn't want to talk to Ren Chen at that time, she said, "If you can't break your face, don't break your face." This shows that this Ren Chen still has a certain energy, at least one of the TV station's big clients. Nangong works in a TV station and offended Ren Chen, which may have a certain impact on her work in the future. She decisively and mercilessly rejected Ren Chen. On the one hand, she didn't like Ren Chen, but more importantly, it was because of Su Ming. At this time, Su Ming should of course stand up and help Nangong bear all the negative consequences it may bring. That's not the case. I go to the TV station to work, and I don't sell myself to make fun of myself. Nangong Yan also has a young lady's temper. She raised her face and snorted and said, 10,000 steps back, I won't do it if I piss you off. Well, I don't need that much salary. My dad doesn't support me, so you support me. There are such things as unspoken rules in all walks of life, but in most cases, you first have a plan before you encounter unspoken rules. For someone like Nangong who doesn't want to climb up through crooked ways, who can even say no to a job, and whose family has some background, there's really nothing anyone can do to her. It's necessary. I even support your father. Su Ming didn't worry about whether Nangong Yan could become famous or not. Even if Nangong Yan stayed as a clerk all her life and didn't even work, he could still afford it. She was just worried that her work would not go well in the future, which would make her in a bad mood. Seeing that Nangong Yan was so careless and didn't take it seriously, Su Ming felt relieved. But, what that guy said is right, and I won my heart, Nangong Yan suddenly said to Su Ming seriously. Ah! What are you talking about? Su Ming was stunned. It's dinner time, I'm hungry. Nangong puffed up his cheeks, grabbed Su Ming's arm and said coquettishly, take me to dinner. You can choose any hotel in the city. Su Minghao slapped his chest angrily. After eating, I still want to buy, must buy, from head to toe, buy whatever you like. Buy 2 pairs of clothes, one to wear and one to wear, buy 2 pairs of shoes, wear one and lose the other. We won't come back until the card is maxed out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 276. I drove to a famous restaurant with Nangang Yan and had a hearty meal. The so-called cuisine, as the name suggests in Chinese, means processing, and in Japanese it means dishes. Unlike Chinese cuisine, which requires color, fragrance, and flavor, Japanese cuisine, in addition to taste, pays more attention to visual enjoyment, exquisiteness, beauty, and ingredients. Matching with utensils. In a word, I just couldn't get enough to eat. There was a large table of various beautiful-looking small plates, just like an art exhibition. Unfortunately, the little things on each plate were not enough to feed the cat. Not only was he not full, he was also uncomfortable sitting down. Sitting cross-legged on the tatami would squeeze his stomach. Su Ming thought it would be better to eat squatting. Try it, really, the taste of their sashimi is very special, you get what you pay for. Nangang used small silver chopsticks to pick up a piece of sashimi as thin as a snail, and dipped it in some wasabi. Placed on a small lacquer plate in front of Su Ming. Su Ming didn't know how the goods were, but the price was quite high. Anyway, Su Ming had eaten in many big restaurants with Zhao Yun. In terms of price, this restaurant was even better. After tasting it, Su Ming suddenly smiled. Don't you think the taste is very familiar? Su Ming often eats fish from Shuahun Lake, and he is very familiar with the taste of fish raised in Taisui water. As soon as the sashimi entered his mouth, his taste buds clearly told him, this is produced by Shuahun Lake. No way, Nangang Yan's eyes widened. She picked up a small piece without any seasoning, put it in her mouth and tasted it carefully. I couldn't have tasted it wrong. There is no other fish with this kind of taste in the city except Shuahun Lake, Su Ming said. That's too much. Nangang Yan slammed her chopsticks on the table and said angrily, the menu clearly says black tuna. Black tuna is commonly known as black pomfret. Not many people know these two names, but its Chinese name bluefin tuna or tuna is well known to every household. This kind of fish has plump flesh and high nutritional value. It has always been an excellent ingredient for making sashimi. At the same time, due to overfishing, the number is becoming scarce and the price is soaring. The black tuna sashimi on this large plate ordered by Nangang was the most expensive. But there are 4 domestic fish and blackfish in Shuahun Lake. Black tuna with hair? If, as Su Ming said, the plate of sashimi in front of him comes from a certain kind of fish in Shuahun Lake, then this restaurant is cheating on consumers. Forget it, it's just a small amount of money. There is no need to make it unpleasant when we go out to eat. Su Ming stopped Nangang Yan, who was about to go to the store, to argue. It's only a few $100s, so it doesn't matter, it tastes good anyway. He was somewhat curious about the fake bluefin tuna fillet. It stands to reason that the meat texture of black tuna is somewhat different from that of the 4 major species of fish and snakehead fish, both in color and texture. Experts can tell it at a glance, and even a seasoned foodie like Nangang Yan can easily identify it. This shop probably used some clever slicing technique to make the 2 types of fish look similar. The key is the taste. If Su Ming wasn't so familiar with the fish in Shuahun Lake, he would have almost been fooled. Nangang Yan didn't notice it at first, and she didn't notice it until Su Ming reminded her. If I had known this, I might as well have caught 2 fish from your Shuahun Lake to eat. Nangang Yan blinked her big eyes and said seriously, instead of letting these profiteers make money, you might as well just open a restaurant. Since the fish in Shuahun Lake tastes so good, they won't have to worry about lack of customers. I also want to open a big restaurant, Su Ming shrugged, but I don't have the money. I don't have enough money to open a big restaurant, but I still have enough money to buy shopping. In the afternoon, I went to Wanda Plaza for a walk. Nowadays, the economic situation is declining. In Wanda Plaza, apart from places to eat, the rest of the stores have more waiters than customers. Su Ming and two people occupied half of the floor. After shopping around, Su Ming bought a watch. Nangong, after buying a bag, the two of us always felt weird, as if something was wrong. I bought a watch today. Su Ming muttered. I bought a bag today. Nangong muttered while sitting in the passenger seat. The two of them turned their heads at the same time, looked at each other, and exclaimed in unison, "This is so funny." Early the next morning, as soon as Su Ming arrived at the office, Sister Tong knocked on the door from outside and came in. Xiao Ho, the keeper of Monkey Mountain, followed behind, lowering her head and squirming. Su Ming could tell by looking at their looks that something had happened. "What's wrong?" "Sister Tong, please sit down, and Xiao Ho, please sit down too." Xiao Ho glanced at Sister Tong nervously, and Sister Tong glared, "I'll beat you if you ask me. How can such a big man look like a girl?" "Deputy Principal, I made a mistake in my work, you can criticize me." Xiao Ho lowered his head and said, "You haven't said anything yet, let the leader criticize you as much as you want. Besides, the deputy principal is not the kind of unreasonable person," Sister Tong said from the side. Su Ming finally understood that Xiao Ho had probably done something wrong. At the last meeting, the zoo's new regulations were announced and work discipline was emphasized. Xiao Ho was afraid of being punished, so he dragged Sister Tong to intercede with him. Xiao Ho usually had a good attitude towards work and was a responsible person. Su Ming was not in a hurry to blame him. He asked about the situation first, and then he realized that it was Monkey Mountain and Gibbon District that were causing trouble again. Last time the Gibbons collectively petitioned for suicide, Su Ming went to resolve it. Not long after, the two sides once again became uneasy. Xiao Ho felt that he had betrayed the trust of his leader and failed to do his job well. "Wait, I'll go and see first." Su Ming was very surprised. What was going on? Last time, he took the Gibbons into the mountains to play for a night. They were also quarreling with the monkeys and competing in making wine, which resulted in a lot of winemaking fruits being wasted. When they arrived in front of the Monkey Mountain, the white-browed gibbons were lying on the cages again, screaming towards the Monkey Mountain, but this time it was better. They didn't commit suicide by hitting the wall. Seeing Su Ming coming, the gibbons screamed more vigorously, shook the cages vigorously, and bared their teeth at the Monkey Mountain opposite. Some even made random gestures. Su Ming used his mental power to test it a little, and the group of gibbons seemed to have suffered a great injustice. "Huh? How did the monkeys offend you again?" Su Ming was stunned. Last time the gibbon went crazy, the monkeys on the opposite side were watching the excitement. But now, the Monkey Mountain is deserted. There is no excitement of monkeys playing everywhere. There are only a few monkeys in the huge Monkey Mountain, lying lazily on the ground, with their bellies facing up, as if they are dying. Most of the monkeys are missing, and they should be hiding in the caves of the Monkey Mountain. Today the weather is good, the sun is warm, and the monkeys don't have the habit of sleeping in. If it is such weather, they would have run out to play everywhere, basking in the sun, catching lice, and flirting with girls. The deserted situation in front of us is obviously not in line with the characteristics of the monkey group. At first, the keeper Xiao Ho only noticed the abnormal movement of the white-browed gibbon, but didn't pay attention to the Monkey Mountain. Now he followed Su Ming and found something wrong. "Deputy Director, I'll go to the Monkey Mountain and take a look." Xiao Ho hurriedly asked for help. If something went wrong in the Monkey Mountain, he, as the administrator, would be in trouble. No one could say anything. Moreover, there was a national treasure level kindling golden monkey in the Monkey Mountain. If something happened to this little guy, it would be a huge liability accident. Xiao Ho was also very depressed. He had always worked diligently and never cheated. Why did something abnormal happen to both the monkey mountain and the gibbon? No, it has nothing to do with you. It's not your fault. Okay, go and do your thing. I'll go down to the monkey mountain and take a look. Su Ming estimated that this was probably related to the contradiction between the gibbon and the monkey group. This kind of thing was beyond the ability of ordinary keepers, and Xiao Ho could not be blamed. Entering the monkey mountain from the keeper's entrance, Su Ming strode towards a macaque lying on a big rock, sunbathing its belly. Macaques are usually very clever. They usually jump away as soon as they see someone before they get close. But until Su Ming came up to him, the macaque didn't notice it at all. It was lying there like a pig, with its belly facing the sky, its face and butt as red as each other. It was actually asleep, snoring lightly, with bubbles coming out of the corners of its mouth and drooling. Oh my God, which tourist is so bored that he feeds wine to the monkey? After approaching, Su Ming smelled a strong smell of wine from the macaque. It turned out that this guy was drunk. The same was true for the other monkeys lying on the ground. They were all drunk, sleeping sweetly and drooling. When he walked into the monkey mountain, as expected, the remaining monkeys were all drunk in the cave. There was also an overturned bamboo tube next to the old monkey king. Su Ming picked up the bamboo tube and smelled it. There was a smell of wine inside. It looked like the monkeys were not fed wine by tourists, but rather that the monkeys stole wine to drink. Is the monkey wine ready? Su Ming sniffed it carefully again. The wine in the bamboo tube was not the same as the monkey wine. The previous monkey wine was a low-alcohol wine, and its alcohol content was about the same as that of ordinary wine, but the smell of the wine in the bamboo tube was close to that of low-alcohol liquor. Primates love wine and sex, and it is normal for monkeys to love wine, but where did all the liquor come from? Could it be that these guys really went out in the middle of the night, swept through a certain tobacco and alcohol supermarket, and ate alone after returning, without sharing with the gibbon, so the gibbon was angry? Don't sleep, don't sleep. Su Ming lifted the old monkey king up and shook him. This guy was too disloyal. You went to the tobacco and alcohol supermarket and only knew how to steal wine, but why didn't you bring back a few good cigarettes? The old monkey king was awakened by Su Ming. He opened his sleepy eyes and grinned at Su Ming, revealing a few yellow teeth. Then he slid down the wall like a puddle of mud. Aok! 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 The angry shouts of the gibbon and the sound of the cage being smashed came from behind. What? Stole your wine? Su Ming was stunned. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 277. That day, Su Ming took the macaques and gibbons to the back mountain. The macaques can make wine, and the gibbons' wine-making behavior was completely stimulated by the macaques, and they imitated the macaques in anger. Although a pile of rotten fruits can be fermented into wine, it does not mean that this is monkey wine. If that were the case, there would be no need for monkeys to brew it, and Su Ming could brew it himself. So he didn't expect the gibbons to really make wine. Anyway, those school bags of fruits were not worth much, so he just made the gibbons happy, and it didn't matter if they were wasted. Unexpectedly, the gibbons really made wine. Su Ming brought a gibbon to the winemaking place in the back mountain, and saw that the fruits in the two hollow old trees had completely rotted, and the rich fermented liquid penetrated through the gaps on the partitions and was dripping into the large wooden barrel below. The tree on the east side is the tree where the macaques make wine. The barrel below is already half full. Su Ming dipped his finger in it and tasted it. It was still the same recipe and tasted the same as the monkey wine he drank before. The tree on the west side is used by gibbons to make wine. Su Ming didn't expect it at the beginning. Now, there is a thin layer of liquid in the barrel below. But it is not the emerald green color of monkey wine, but a liquid that is close to milky white, like cheese. He also dipped his finger in it and tasted it. It was very fragrant, but the alcohol content was quite high, close to white wine, and it also had the effect of improving mental strength. Perhaps because the alcohol content is higher than that of macaque wine, the degree of improvement in mental strength is also greater. No wonder these gibbons rebelled. The macaques live in a semi-open monkey mountain and can enter and exit freely, while the gibbons are locked in cages. Without Su Ming's help, they can't get out at all. Last time, the two sides brewed wine together. Now the macaques stole the liquor brewed by the gibbons. It would be strange if they were not angry. There was only a thin layer of gibbon wine left in the wine barrel. It seemed that most of it was stolen by the macaques. These bad boys, Su Ming rubbed the head of the gibbon who followed him to comfort him. In any case, it is not a bad thing to have one more monkey who can brew wine. The gibbon wine has a high alcohol content and is more effective in improving mental strength. Su Ming felt that he needed to improve his drinking capacity. If he could drink white wine like drinking macaque wine every day, the speed of improving mental strength would obviously increase significantly. Yes, Uncle Zhao, this is the formula for monkey wine. At Zhao Yun's house, Su Ming took out 2 pieces of paper full of words and handed them to Zhao Yun. When the 2 groups of monkeys brewed wine, he used a camera to record the whole process, and then went back to summarize it into text as the initial product formula of Dashan wine industry in the future. Of course, this is just a basic formula. Whether it is monkey wine or gibbon wine, the real original flavor is all brewed by animals themselves, and Su Ming mainly uses it for himself. Even if there are more gibbons and monkeys, it is impossible to support the brewing work of the entire winery. In the future, the winery's wine will mainly rely on manual and mechanical brewing, so even if it is the same formula, the wine produced is completely different. Based on the 2 types of monkey wine as the basic formula, it is necessary to add Tai Sui water as an additive to conduct a series of professional experiments to determine how to mix Tai Sui water and the current monkey wine formula to achieve the best effect. Zhao Yun took it and looked at it carefully, and asked curiously, "Huh? One is a fruit wine, and the other is a white wine formula. Well, in this way, we can have 2 products, white wine and fruit wine. In fact, both are fruit wines, but one has a high degree and the other has a low degree." Su Ming nodded. The gibbon can brew strong liquor, which not only brings him a new way to improve his mental strength, but also opens up a new flagship product for the winery, which can produce strong and low alcohol liquor together in the future. These 2 formulas will be very interesting. I have never seen wine brewed in this way. Where did you get them from? Zhao Yun specializes in antiques and has a basic understanding of other trades. He is a generalist and of course knows more or less about wine. After reading these 2 formulas, he was surprised. At this time, Su Ming was not going to hide the monkey wine from Zhao Yun. Although the monkey gibbon could not be responsible for the work of the entire winery in the future, it was necessary to frequently pretend to brew wine and create some gimmicks. After a long time, a large group of macaques and gibbons pretended to brew wine in the winery, and they pretended to be so professional that they looked more professional than the serious workers. The discerning people in the winery could see some clues. The real source of the monkey wine could not be hidden from Zhao Yun. As long as he thought about it a little, he could figure it out. Zhao Yun asked him about the source of the formula. If Su Ming didn't want to, he didn't have to tell him. But now the relationship between Su Ming and Zhao Yun is different from before. They are good friends in private and will open a winery together in the future. Su Ming is ready to be frank about some harmless little issues. He considered the words, smiled mysteriously, and said, "Uncle Zhao, to be honest, these 2 formulas were not obtained from human hands." In his words, he emphasized the pronunciation of the word human. Not from human hands. Zhao Yun was stunned and looked at Su Ming in confusion. What do you mean it's not from human hands? If it's not human, is it a ghost? Or is it a family heirloom? Su Ming smiled and said nothing. Zhao Yun's brain is so good. He was distracted at the beginning. It can be seen that Su Ming's smile is very mysterious. His mind was brightened, and his heart seemed to be electrified, and he connected all the previous details together. In Monkey Mountain, he used the family heirloom animal training skills to save Cheng Cheng. It didn't take long before monkey wine was discovered. When discussing opening a winery, Su Ming also said that he could send a few monkeys to pretend to make wine to create a publicity stunt. Now, he was holding two strange fruit wine recipes with a mysterious look, saying that he didn't get them from people. Putting these things together, Zhao Yun had already guessed about 70% of the time, and asked Su Ming incredulously, "You mean, these two recipes are the recipes for monkey wine? Those monkey wines back then?" "That's pretty much it." Su Ming roughly told Zhao Yun what happened. Of course, he didn't say anything about the abilities of friends of animals. He just said that after rescuing Cheng Cheng, he discovered that the Monkey King had escaped from prison. He followed him and discovered that the old Monkey King knew how to make wine, so he had the monkey wine at the auction. Later, he came up with the idea that since macaques can make wine, then gibbons might also be able to make wine. After giving it a try, it turned out to be the case, so he came up with these two recipes. "Oh, that's it." Zhao Yun listened to Su Ming's story attentively. After listening, he breathed a long sigh of relief. He, this monkey wine was too shocking at first, and I was too poor, so I kept it from you, so don't be surprised," Su Ming said with a smile. "There's nothing surprising about this." Zhao Yun didn't mean to blame him at all, but said with a smile, "Besides, our relationship at that time was not like it is now. If it were me, I would have kept the secret. But in this case, since you have a batch of monkey wine every year, get me a few bottles." "Okay, I can give you 1 bottle a month, no problem. But why do you want so much wine?" Monkey wine is of great significance to Su Ming, but to others, it is just an extremely rare and high-quality wine. Zhao Yun is a collector, and things are rare and valuable. 1 or 2 bottles are valuable, but if he sends 1 bottle every month, this thing will immediately become worthless. Zhao Yun opened his eyes wide and said confidently, "Who said I want to collect it and drink it? I took a sip last year and the taste was so deadly. I was itching all the time. It's a pity that I only thought this thing was too refined. It's expensive, 1 sip is too little, and you can't even buy it if you have the money, so I couldn't bear to drink it and kept it in the safe. Now that you have a stable source, of course I'll ask you to order some to satisfy your craving." "Uncle, 1 bottle costs millions. It's not appropriate for you to just use it to satisfy your cravings," Su Ming said half-jokingly. "You don't use it as water every day, and I don't see you feeling distressed." Zhao Yun rolled his eyes, and then said seriously, "I will go to the agency to test whether these 2 formulas comply with food safety regulations. There is another very important thing. Since these 2 formulas are ownerless, then we must apply for a patent quickly to prevent someone from copying our wine in the future, or even copying it. If the copycat applies for a patent first, we will not have time to cry. This is worth noting. Regardless of who developed these 2 formulas, the patent office and whoever applies for the patent first will legally belong to him. There are too many bloody lessons. The real inventor was negligent and did not apply for a patent. As a result, a copycat applied for it first. It was so sad that he was in tears. Not only did he not get the benefits he deserved, but he could no longer even use the formula. Su Ming immediately called lawyer Zhang Siming and asked him to apply for a patent. In addition to the patents for these 2 basic formulas, in the future when the winery develops a formal product with Tai Sui water added, it will also apply for 2 more product patents jointly owned by Su Ming and the winery. Applying for a patent is not difficult. Just use a clear process and follow it. It can be done for a few small bucks." Zhang Siming agreed without hesitation, and then said jokingly on the other end of the phone, "Mr. Su, you are not. I just took over the zoo and became the deputy director. When did I start developing new wine? It's true that the capable can do anything. It's a long story. When the wine is developed, I'll treat you to a drink, Su Ming said with a smile. Okay. After talking to Jiang Ximing, Su Ming chatted with Zhao Yun about the current construction progress of the winery. Since the price of the land was cheap, the winery had relatively sufficient start-up capital. A lot of money was spent to pave the way, and the project was progressing smoothly. In a few months, the winery will almost be completed and started. There's another chapter tonight. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 278. Su Ming hadn't logged into his Weibo account for 2 days. When he logged in again, the comments below were already overwhelming. A video was forwarded. It was the one in the back mountain that day when Nangongyan rejected Ren Chen in front of everyone. At that time, there happened to be a fan of the Weibo account present, who took a video with his mobile phone and posted it online. The main elements of a story include time, place, characters, and events. These elements are very important for whether the story is attractive. Nothing can touch people's hearts more than gossip. The event in the video itself is extremely exciting. In terms of time, it was just released 2 days ago, and the location was at the Fox Immortal, who is very familiar to fans. Speaking of characters, it is even more attractive. One is the owner of the Weibo account, the familiar director of the garden, and the other is a beautiful young and well-known reporter. Even the villain is a handsome and elegant guy. There has never been any gossip that is so close to the lives of fans. It is simply a living gossip happening around you. The entire Weibo was boiling, with hundreds of comments below, all about this video. What a strange woman who has a clear distinction between love and hate. It's not good for this girl to be so direct. That handsome guy looks so pitiful. Obviously, her values are not right. So what if he's handsome? Can he be the third party and steal someone's girlfriend just because he's handsome? Director, I support you. Director, you're a coward. If anyone dares to chase my girlfriend, I'll kill his whole family. I wish you a lifetime of cuckoldry. I'll definitely unfollow you. Is this guy mentally ill? But seriously, the third guy is really handsome. Director, introduce him to my family. What a waste. In fact, the director is also quite handsome. He can make a living with his face, so why does he have to compete with his strength? When did you have a girlfriend, director? Woohoo, do you hear the sound of my heart breaking? Wow, I have seen this male number 3. My classmate works in their company. I heard that the company is preparing to go public on the growth enterprise market. Director, you have met your match. It is really unexpected that such a gossip video has a better publicity effect than advertising on TV. The number of fans on Weibo is rising. According to this trend, it is likely to break through the 100,000 mark soon. Is this all right? People who cannot keep up with the trend are destined to be eliminated. Su Ming studied it carefully and found that the new fans who joined because of this video can be roughly divided into 3 categories. One type was shocked by Nangong's strong queen temperament at that time and came to support Nangong. The second type was just for fun and found that there were many interesting animals in this Weibo. These 2 types were passers-by who became fans, and the number of people was the largest. The third type was completely the soy sauce party. All of them came to see the handsome guy, a small group came to see the director, and a large part came to see Ren Chen. From this ratio, it can be clearly explained that Su Ming is at most a little handsome, while Ren Chen is very handsome, and he is the sunny and fresh meat. Since there are so many fans leaving messages, Su Ming must also show up. Thank you for your concern, we are very good, and the corner of socialism is strong and will not fall. Then attached a photo of 2 hands holding together. However, although the corner of socialism is strong and will not fall, as long as the imperialists' intention to destroy us is not dead, we can't be careless. The Yangchuan Foreign Business Club is located next to a small park on the outskirts of the city. From the outside, it has a strong Western architectural style and its shape is very similar to the White House in the United States. 20 years ago, the Foreign Businessmen Club was the largest state-owned hotel in Yangchuan City, integrating catering, accommodation and entertainment. It was also the only hotel in Yangchuan City that was open to foreign businessmen at that time. Later, the hotel was restructured and acquired into a private enterprise. In the past few years, it was completely transformed into a private club, known for providing first-class services, luxurious enjoyment, and high security and privacy protection. Of course, the fees are not affordable for ordinary people. Those who go to the club are either rich or noble, and only members are received here. Non-members cannot enter even if they have money. Ren Chen is a VIP member of this club. At this time, he is sitting in the small private room where he met Yang Meng last time. Yang Meng is also present. So, you give up? Yang Meng was very surprised. Unexpectedly, after not seeing each other for a few days, Ren Chen completely lost the heroic confidence of easily picking up all the fierce women in the world at the beginning, and was actually ready to give up chasing Nangong Yan. Yang Meng has known Ren Chen for quite a while, but this is the first time she has seen him take the initiative to give in on such a matter. Stop the loss in time, Ren Chen shrugged, and said in a somewhat depressed tone, she has said so much, and I will not get any results if I continue to pursue her. This is sunk capital. Yang Meng's eyes swept across the new Cartier watch on her wrist, and her narrow and long phoenix eyes narrowed slightly. She snorted, and her voice was obviously disdainful, saying, I thought you were so capable, but you can't handle a little girl who just graduated from school. Ren Chen's face suddenly sank, and he rolled his eyelids and glanced at Yang Meng coldly. Ren Chen was directly rejected by Nangong Yan, but Nangong Yan never spent a penny on him from beginning to end, and she didn't ask for any benefits from him, and she didn't give him any hints or hopes from the beginning. In the final analysis, Ren Chen was self-indulgent, so even if he was very embarrassed at the time, he couldn't get angry with Nangong Yan. But Yang Meng was different. This woman didn't know how much benefit she had received from Ren Chen. In Ren Chen's heart, Yang Meng was someone who could be dealt with money. Now he was ridiculing him in front of him. People like Ren Chen wanted to save face most, so of course he was unhappy. He said coldly, if you have no other choice, just shut up and stop talking nonsense. Ren Chen usually looked like a sunny and beautiful boy, loved by everyone, and looked like a harmless and handsome boy, but now he stopped smiling and his face sank, revealing a sinister temperament. Yang Meng's heart skipped a beat at his glance, and the mocking look on his face turned into a dry sneer. You're a guy who always falls out with you. It's so boring. I'm just kidding you. Yang Meng deliberately looked a little aggrieved and said, actually, it's not completely helpless. Well? Tell me, Ren Chen said. Nangong Yan is the first fortress that he has not conquered in his many years of fighting against Huacan. Although Ren Chen said he gave up, in his heart, this failure has become a demon. If he has the chance, of course he would like to take down Nangong Yan. That day you said that the key was Nangong Yan, and whenever it was necessary to embarrass her boyfriend, I actually disagreed. But I saw that you were very confident at the time, so I didn't say anything. Yang Meng seemed to have the talent to block troublemakers. When he talked about cheating people behind his back, he suddenly became energetic and said with joy, a girl like Nangong Yan, if she has one person in her heart, she can't pretend to be another person, so, as long as she is still in love, it will be difficult for you to take action. Besides, why is she so stubborn? Isn't it just because her boyfriend has some money? Even if she doesn't work in the TV station in the future, can her boyfriend support her? If his boyfriend is ruined, he may not have a chance in the future. Ren Chen stared at Yang Meng expressionlessly and listened to her quietly. What you said makes sense, but it's almost nonsense. His boyfriend is the deputy director of the zoo, how should I start? Besides, I am definitely can't show up. Ren Chen went out to fight Su Ming on his own. Even if he defeated Su Ming, Nangongyan would be angry with him in the end. Moreover, Ren Chen himself knew that his financial resources and influence were not enough to easily overwhelm Su Ming, especially since Su Ming was now the deputy director of the zoo, a public figure, and had inextricable connections with government officials. That would be even harder to deal with. It didn't happen before, but the zoo has just been restructured, and there is a great opportunity in front of us. Didn't you go to the fox home that day? Yang Meng told Ren Chen her plan. After listening to this, Ren Chen closed his eyes, leaned on the sofa and pondered for a moment. He went through everything Yang Meng said in his mind. Based on his experience, he found that this was indeed a feasible method, even if it was done all at once. If he didn't cross Su Ming, he would get into a lot of trouble. Whether it's being an official or doing business, the biggest fear is trouble. A small trouble can often lead to a lot of troubles and problems. If you are not careful, it will affect the overall situation, especially for a semi-public figure like Su Ming. For example, this is the case for Ren Chen himself. His company is preparing to be listed on the GEM. If there is any slight disturbance that is unfavorable to him, it will affect the listing. If the listing is affected, it will immediately affect a series of cooperation projects of the company. What good will it do to you if you tell me this? Ren Chen asked. Me? We are friends. Of course I will stand by your side and help you. You think I'm a fool when you say that? Ren Chen shook his head and said. Yang Meng was stared at by Ren Chen with hair all over his body. He gritted his teeth and said in a bitter tone, if it hadn't been for her boyfriend, I would still be a popular host on the station. How could I be like this today? You can defeat her boyfriend, just help me out. As for Nangongyan, how can she, a young girl, fight with me without her boyfriend to support her and provide her with first-hand news clues every 3 days? Oh, I understand, you want to kill someone with a borrowed knife, Ren Chen said. At least our goals are the same. Yang Meng laughed again. Mr. Ren, the videos of you being rejected have been posted online. Go and see how the internet is laughing at you. You are now a laughing stock. How can you bear to be stepped on by such a country bumpkin? Since powerful people often discuss matters in foreign business clubs, the club's security and confidentiality measures are very good. Each box is absolutely soundproofed and even equipped with anti-eavesdropping frequency blocking equipment. Therefore, Yang Meng and Ren Chen were in the box. I was very confident when I spoke, without any hesitation. The two of them chatted in the box for several hours. In the end, they even had another sex on a whim, reliving the good memories. After they left, an inconspicuous little wasp emerged from under the sofa in the private room and flew out from the open door. Ha 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 ha, I'm finally back to my normal routine. Let me just say, a rich and successful person like Ren Chen would never give up so easily when encountering difficulties. Su Ming withdrew his soul-possessing ability, touched his chin and rolled his eyes a few times. Unexpectedly, Yang Meng was also involved. Speaking of being hateful, this Yang Meng is even more hateful than Ren Chen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 279. As a small upstart, Su Ming is more familiar with rich people. Not giving up easily is the most typical characteristic of such people, especially for bosses like Ren Chen who make money by themselves. It can be said that he is indomitable, or shameless. Anyway, he will not easily stop in the face of difficulties. Doing business is not a simple matter. Even if you have a family background, it is impossible to be smooth sailing. If you retreat when you encounter difficulties, Ren Chen's company will not be so big. The biggest difference between idiots and successful people lies in their attitude towards difficulties. The former will escape, complain about everything, blame themselves for not having a good father, and then feel depressed in their hearts, thinking that the whole society is sorry for him, the latter will find a way to solve it, or simply give up completely. Therefore, after Ren Chen was directly rejected by Nangong, Su Ming conducted biological monitoring on Ren Chen for safety reasons. Heidongking is like a central control computer, flying in the air to monitor the overall situation. A large number of wasps act as terminal nodes to track Ren Chen. If there is any suspicious situation, Su Ming will know it at the first time. When Su Ming learned that Ren Chen and Yang Meng from the TV station had met, he felt something was wrong. He rushed to the vicinity of the Foreign Business Club and used his soul attaching ability to let a small wasp follow him into the box to eavesdrop on their conversation. Of course, it was not just the conversation. Su Ming also saw the little things they did later through the wasp's eyes. Wasps have compound eyes. At that time, Su Ming felt like there were many large screens in front of him, playing movies at the same time. That feeling was quite exciting. Ren Chen's pursuit of Nangong would definitely not make Su Ming happy, but it was understandable. A gentleman would pursue a beautiful lady, and a villain would also pursue her. Nangong Yan's level was there, and it was completely normal for Ren Chen to like her. If he put himself in Ren Chen's shoes, such good conditions were poured with a basin of cold water in public, and even the video was posted online, he would definitely feel unhappy. But this has nothing to do with Yang Meng. From beginning to end, Nangong Yan and himself never took the initiative to provoke Yang Meng. What's the point of saying you are the only one who is blocking my way? The director of the TV station blocked Yang Meng's way to becoming the director. I can only say that this woman is mentally twisted. Fortunately, since she knows what Yang Meng and Ren Chen's next plan is, it does not pose a big threat. Unexpectedly, their plan is to use foxes to make a fuss. And it is exactly the problem of feudal superstition to make money that Su Ming had thought of at the beginning. The zoo was restructured, and the newly appointed young director used feudal superstition activities to make money for economic benefits. It sounds like a good stock. Su Ming was very nervous about this from the beginning and acted very carefully, but Yang Meng still wanted to use this to attack him. It was a deliberate plan, and if Su Ming hadn't known it in advance, he might have suffered a loss. If Old Song was in power at the time, with Old Song's qualifications and prestige, this little thing would definitely not affect him, but it was enough for Su Ming, a young man, to drink a pot, and if he was not careful, the deputy director would be ruined. Why do you think the same as me? Su Ming couldn't help but want to laugh. Do bad people think the same? Even if they didn't mention this, he was going to regulate the Fox Ferry project. After the reform, it would be better to separate the zoos and his own private industries. Now is the right time, take this opportunity to do it together. Secret visit. In the deputy director's office of Yang Chuan TV station, Deputy Director Shi widened his eyes and looked at Yang Meng sitting across the table. Deputy Director Shi and Yang Meng had an abnormal relationship. Although Yang Meng had a beautiful figure and was quite powerful in bed, Lao Shi quickly took the initiative to distance himself from Yang Meng. He felt that Yang Meng was a woman of average ability, but she was too ambitious and asked more and more things from him. It was not a good thing to get too close to such a woman. For example, the last hormone incident, Yang Meng got the opportunity to be a live female host through Deputy Director Shi. She stood out in the live TV program, not only hurting herself, but also almost pitting Lao Shi. However, people always have to pay for their actions. Even if Lao Shi took the initiative to distance himself from Yang Meng, it was impossible to completely erase the past between the two. Yang Meng still often followed Lao Shi's path and asked Lao Shi to help with all kinds of things he could and couldn't help with, so that Lao Shi was sometimes a little distressed, as if he was entangled by this woman. I really shouldn't have sought temporary pleasure. After Yang Meng returned to the TV station, she didn't stay still for a few days, and she beat Lao Shi and asked Lao Shi to send her a few people to conduct an undercover program. What's so good about this? It's just an entertainment project in the zoo. It's just a few foxes. It's normal for a zoo to train a few animals to attract attention and increase income. Besides, they have said that they want to visit in a civilized manner. Lao Shi frowned and said with a headache. If it is a truly valuable program that can bring ratings, Lao Shi certainly doesn't object. But the undercover investigation proposed by Yang Meng is to go to the zoo to secretly investigate the Fox Ferry project, which is too much of a fuss. Lao Shi knows about this project. It is very popular and brings a lot of fun to the people. In the eyes of most people, it is an interesting and positive image. What is the point of secretly investigating such a program? Besides, it may also involve religious issues. If you are not careful, not only will you not be able to form valuable news, but the TV station will also touch the line and get into trouble. It is simply a thankless task and will shoot itself in the foot. There are so many large and small entertainment projects in places like zoos and parks. Is there something fishy about them all that requires unannounced visits? At the beginning, the zoo developed projects such as Lucky Cat and fish riding, which were very popular. TV stations reported on them and the ratings were good. At this point, several directors of the TV station, including Lao Shi, admired Nangong Yan. The news materials she received were all programs that had ratings and were liked by everyone. They spread positive energy widely and were not brought to the TV station. There have been good economic and social benefits. It is worth reporting because of religious reasons. Every time there is a topic about the abbot of Shaolin Temple, even if it is gossip, it will make the headlines and cause a stir. Can this be the same? Lao Shi just wanted to slam the table. Everyone in their media circles knew that probably half of the news about Shaolin Temple was created by the other party in order to increase its popularity. If you look at the life cycle of those news, you will understand, at the beginning, they are all explosive content, and then more shocking materials are constantly reported. After attracting enough eyeballs, they basically drop nothing and end quickly. This is the most common tactic for self-promotion. Besides, a well-received entertainment project that is popular with the general public has to be launched online. Isn't this just a matter of being full and looking for trouble? To put it bluntly, even if we go to investigate, what evidence can we find? Director Shi's whole family has been to the fox home. The current Guyu Xianju is filled with foxes from abroad. They look quite cute. There are no feudal superstitious activities there at all. Leader, I have been observing there for a few days, and I am fully confident that there must be someone engaged in this kind of activities. As long as I am given manpower and resources, I will definitely be able to take pictures. Yang Meng lowered his voice. When the time comes, as long as there is evidence, they couldn't explain it clearly. The money for tickets and wishing charms can all be said to be using feudal superstition to make money. That's enough, that's enough. Deputy Director Shi waved his hand impatiently, frowned and stared at Yang Meng, and asked word by word, how much hatred do you have against the zoo? You insist on pouring dirty water on others. Yang Meng didn't have a grudge against the zoo, but against Nangong Yan. It was one-sided. He had unrequited love and she had unrequited hatred. Yang Meng became more enthusiastic. Besides, as far as I know, the Fox Home project is not entirely owned by the zoo, but was contracted to Daowin Entertainment Company. It is completely a profit-making project. A private company that uses religious superstition to make money. After listening to what Yang Meng said, Deputy Director Shi stood up and walked back and forth in the office several times with his hands behind his back. Yang Meng's analysis is not unreasonable. If we use the power of the media, there are some articles that can be made. However, this article really doesn't go very far, it doesn't make much sense, and it offends people. He thought about it and decided to forget it. Even if he got the evidence and attacked the zoo, it would be a thankless task. Leader, if you agree to let me investigate this time, If you give me some manpower and equipment, I will definitely be able to dig out some inside information. We will clear up both sides in the future. Yang Meng threw out the last bargaining chip. For Yang Meng, this is a good opportunity to return to the first line program. She provided the clues, she planned the project, she conducted the undercover interviews, and in the end it was only she who appeared on the TV station to host. The more popular Fox Masters project is now, the more attention it will receive when this unannounced visit is aired. As the instigator, Yang Meng can naturally be reused in the TV station. The last bargaining chip moved Lao Shi. He really didn't want to have any more entanglements with this crazy woman. After thinking for a moment, he said, I can approve the people and equipment, and I can also make the program for you. But you have to remember, first, the scope of the incident should not be too wide, limited to the zoo, and must not involve Daiwan Temple and other religious units, let alone Wangjianxi. Secondly, when you are doing the program, you must strictly abide by the principle of neutrality and objectivity. Report the facts and don't make the same mistake as last time. Don't worry, there will be no problem this time. Then I'm going to prepare. Seeing that the opportunity to make a comeback was right in front of him, Yang Meng was full of energy. Wait, Lao Shi stopped her and said somewhat seriously, Yang Meng, considering the past, I will give you a chance this time, but if you mess up, there will be no next time. Lao Shi, you underestimate me. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 280. After Yang Meng left, Lao Shi couldn't help but sigh. As a leader of the TV station, Lao Shi's personal life is not so decent, but his ability is still very good. Through observation, he found that among the young employees of the TV station, although Nangongyan has the least experience and is not even a graduate of broadcasting and hosting, she is very good at work and has a general style at a young age. Moreover, this young girl always seems to have some good luck. If this program is handed over to Nangongyan, he will be more assured. Of course, this is just thinking about it in his heart. Lao Shi knows that the current deputy director of the zoo is a couple with Nangongyan. The reason why Nangongyan can go smoothly, in addition to her personal ability, has a lot to do with the support of the young deputy director behind her. If Nangongyan is asked to expose the deputy director's background, it is equivalent to asking the wife to investigate her husband. Even if Yang Meng has such a broad mind and is willing to give up the virtuous, Nangongyan herself will not take this task. Thinking of Yang Meng, Lao Shi was depressed again. The main reason for approving Yang Meng's secret visit was that he still had a relationship with Yang Meng. If he didn't agree to Yang Meng's request, it would be troublesome if this woman caused trouble. I hope this woman can get married soon and appear less in front of me in the future. Lao Shi thought to himself that after this secret visit news was over and Yang Meng's popularity increased, he would find a way to introduce her to a few bosses so that she wouldn't always pester him in the future. This kind of woman is the source of trouble for a beautiful woman. Wherever she goes, she stinks. This morning, the Fox Ferry scenic spot on the back mountain of the zoo was as lively as before. The project of Guyu Xianju has already taken shape, and a small piece of miniature farmland on the periphery has been completed. According to the ratio of 1 to 10, several mini farmlands were divided, and small fruits such as cherry tomatoes will be planted here in the future as snacks for the fox fairies. There were even a few miniature scarecrows in the field. It would be more appropriate to say that they were straw foxes. There were bustling tourists on the hillside, and there was a long queue at the door of the fox home that was open for business. However, among these tourists, there are a few who seem a bit sneaky, looking around constantly, with earphones hanging around their necks, as if listening to music. Yang Meng was wearing a casual sportswear, a pair of large sunglasses that covered half of her face, and a fashionable large sun hat. If she wasn't particularly familiar with someone, she wouldn't be recognized at all. She was standing at the end of the line praying for Daxianju. She pulled her collar and whispered to a miniature microphone pinned on it, "Everyone pay attention, there must be people in 3 directions. Group A focuses on finding the scene of tourists praying with their hands folded towards the small house. Group B will go halfway up the mountainside and focus on filming the scene of buying tickets. Group C will go to the fox selling wishing charms and film the transaction between the fox and the people. Without anyone noticing, several undercover investigators scattered all over the hillside adjusted the miniature cameras they carried with them and aimed them at the merit boxes. A big-bellied nouveau riche stuffed 100 yuan into the ticket seller Lao Lin and said, "No need to change, use the remaining money to buy chicken wings for the foxes." A little boy, only 7 or 8 years old, squatted at the door of the land temple, clasped his hands together, and said shyly to the white-eared fox in front of him, little fox, please bless my mother's illness to get better soon. When my mother gets better, I will buy you a roast chicken." A couple came to the door of the praying fox, and the boy took out 20 yuan and stuffed it into the cash box at the door of the house. The girl picked up a prayer banner and wrote on it in a beautiful font, "Forever and ever, never separate." After the boy saw it, he smiled and added a few words at the end, "Have a son soon, and have many children and grandchildren. Go to hell." The girl smiled shyly and punched her boyfriend lightly. The fox who was responsible for selling the prayer charms picked out a small red bell from the basket with a smile, hung it on the wishing banner, and handed it to the couple. The two of them picked up the wishing banner and ran to the wishing tree in the distance. All these scenes were clearly recorded by several miniature cameras. Time passed quickly. Seeing that the zoo was about to close, the tourists on the hillside gradually began to leave. Soon, there were only a dozen tourists left, and people kept leaving. If you pay attention, 4 or 5 of them actually played here for a day. It didn't seem like it when there were many people before, but if everyone left now, these few people who were visiting secretly were still on the hillside, which would be too conspicuous. Yang Meng took out a pinhole camera about the size of a thumb from her pocket, spit out the gum in her mouth, pretended to bend down to tie her shoelaces, and quietly stuck the camera under the eaves of the Fox Ferry. At the same time, several other undercover reporters did the same thing, hiding several pinhole cameras in various hidden places, and then followed other tourists and left the hillside together. After leaving the zoo, Yang Meng and several undercover reporters from the TV station did not return to the TV station, but met in a remote place outside the zoo. "I rented a hotel nearby. We will all stay in the hotel tonight, take turns to squat in the back mountain, turn on the wireless network of your mobile phone, set it to silent, and keep in touch at any time." Yang Meng instructed a series of follow-up matters. After Yang Meng finished speaking, a young employee of the TV station asked cautiously, "Sister Yang, can the station give us the money we donated today?" The other people nodded frequently. They had been waiting on the hillside all day, queuing back and forth. Just to buy the prayer talismans, each person spent hundreds of dollars. These people are all young employees, living on that little salary. It is obviously a public job, but they have to pay for it themselves. It is so depressing. Not only today, the undercover investigation will last for about 3 or 4 days. If the TV station does not reimburse them, they can't bear to pay for it all out of their own pockets. Of course they can't reimburse, the foxes won't issue them invoices, so what's the point of reimbursing? Yang Meng waved his hand generously, "Don't worry, if the station doesn't reimburse, I will reimburse them. Everyone, work hard these days. After the show is broadcast, I will personally give each of you a big red envelope." Hearing this, several people went happily. At about 6:30 in the afternoon, all the tourists in the zoo had dispersed, and the back mountain became quiet. The foxes, who had worked hard all day, came out of their homes one by one and ran to the surrounding open space to play. Su Ming and Wang Hao walked up the hillside side by side. Su Ming carried a large box half a person's height in one hand and a large wooden barrel under his other arm, following behind. Lao Lin came up and greeted them with a smile, "Hello, leader, hello, Mr. Wang. There is milk in the barrel, for the foxes to have a snack. While Su Ming was talking, Su Meng had already put down the barrel. There was a circle of small nipples on the edge of the barrel. Seeing the barrel, the big-eared foxes who were playing swarmed over and slurped the nipples around the barrel. Some little foxes drank too quickly, and the white milk overflowed from their mouths. The big-eared foxes who didn't grab the nipples licked them greedily. Last time, I thought foxes were like cats, with lactose intolerance or something, but I didn't expect that the little foxes loved to drink milk very much, and there was no such problem at all. Don't fight, everyone gets a share. Su Ming smiled and greeted the big-eared foxes, then took Wang Hao to a merit box and asked Lao Lin, "How is the income today?" "Not bad, the income from tickets and wishing charms increased by at least 20% compared to yesterday." While talking, Lao Lin and Xiao Lin moved all the boxes of money together. Each one was heavy. After opening it, it was filled with banknotes and coins of various denominations. Then several people counted the money together, and Su Meng poured the money in the merit boxes into the big box he brought. "Mr. Wang, please sign for it." Lao Lin took out a small notebook and handed it to Wang Hao. Wang Hao took it and looked at it, and casually wrote his name under today's merit income. "Su Meng, you and Mr. Wang will send this money back to the entertainment company to enter it into the account. Be careful on the road," Su Ming reminded Su Meng. Wang Hao muttered, "We need to find a closer office space as soon as possible. It's too troublesome to run back and forth like this." Lao Lin smiled and said, "That's easy. The company makes so much money." This scene was clearly captured by cameras hidden in various places, and sent to Yang Meng's mobile phone in the woods not far away through wireless equipment. Great. Now we have ironclad evidence. A TV station employee who came with her looked around vigilantly and said a little nervously, "Sister Yang, there are wolves in the back mountain of the zoo. Let's leave early." The sky gradually darkened. Most of the back mountain has not been developed. The surrounding trees are tall and dense. When the wind blows, people always feel that something is hiding around and watching them. "What are you afraid of?" Yang Meng sneered. "If the wolf in the zoo bites someone, it will be another big news." "I give up, Sister Yang, you are really dedicated," the young employee said unhappily. For several days afterwards, Yang Meng led people to conduct undercover visits in the back mountain, filming a large number of tourists giving money. Every day after the zoo closed, someone from the entertainment company would come to count the day's income and take the money away. That afternoon, as soon as Su Ming went up the mountain, Lao Lin ran over in a hurry. "Leader, something is wrong." "What's wrong?" Su Ming rolled his eyes, thinking, "Can you break your sentences when you speak? What's wrong with me?" "No, our account book is missing." Lao Lin was extremely anxious. "Oh," Su Ming nodded indifferently. Seeing Su Ming's relaxed expression, Lao Lin thought that Su Ming didn't understand, and repeated anxiously, "Leader, the account book is missing." "I know, the account book is missing, it's a good thing," Su Ming whispered. "Ah," Lao Lin was confused, staring at Su Ming with his mouth open, and said after a long time, "Leader, are you okay?"